Hi, I'm Katie. Welcome to Yoga Awakening and welcome to this Yin yoga practice for deeper meaning. So I really think of Yin yoga as a form of meditation. Probably really all yoga we could think about in that way. A time and a space, an intentional part of your day, of your life to get curious, to inquire, to get to know yourself better. And just know that there's no need to know anything about meditation, to understand it conceptually, to have studied it, to do this practice, or really to do any yoga practice or meditation. So let's get started in our first shape. All of your usual yin props, and if you're new, welcome back to Yin Rejuvenation. So this is our month-long free Yin yoga program where we're exploring all the different facets of Yin yoga. And a special welcome because this is your last practice. So this is our final 4th week of the program and your last class. So let's get started in our first shape. You can always refer back to the first video for a little extra guidance and talk through about the props. All the usual props would be great for today. Of course, you can modify. You can still do this practice if you don't have anything. I suggest, especially for today, to have a pillow or bolster, a block or two, and a blanket or two. So let's come on in to our first shape, which will be Malasana. Sometimes we call this our yogi squat. So, of course, you always have options. You might grab that blanket. You could roll it up into a log shape or fold it. You could bring that underneath the heels. So especially nice if the heels are close to the ground but not touching. Might be a good way to feel more supported as we stay in the shape. If the heels are quite lifted, I might opt just to stay there with them lifted, lean some of the weight forwards, maybe onto the hands. Or you could opt to find a thicker blanket roll to prop them up. And if the heels happen to be touching the mat, then you might not need any props. Hands could be resting somewhere down in front of you on fingertips or palms. Knees as wide, as light as you like, feet as close together or as far apart as you like, and that will depend some just on your unique shape and anatomy. So play with those distances a little bit if you like, heels further apart. For me, that's a little too wide, heels a little closer together, that feels about right. And then I'll opt to bring hands into this prayer position, palms together. I like to create this gentle sense of a pushing into the knees with the elbows and the knees pushing back. And then once I've found that, I soften just a touch, softening through the hips. We'll come into our shape just for a minute or so. I've already been there for maybe about that already. Know that if this shape isn't right for you, you could always come to the wall and take Malasana at the wall. You could bring a block for underneath the sitting bones as well. Let yourself get really quiet here. Let's release. Bring the hands behind, or you could come through a tabletop. We'll make our way, just for a moment, into this seated shape with the feet out in front, hands maybe clasping the legs. And then from there, it might feel good to bring hands behind, stretch the legs out. And just take some windshield wipers. So we're starting with the most yang of the yin poses. So I invite you in this next shape especially to see if you can find the yin quality, maybe the trickiest part. So right from the beginning, we're asking ourselves to embrace this introspective quality. So that shape that we're coming into next is camel pose. You could also, of course, come into seal pose if you're familiar. If that feels better in your body, or maybe a sphinx pose would be great too, a gentler back bend. Otherwise, we'll come up into camel. So come onto the knees. And I like to curl my toes under so the heels are a little closer. This could be a great place to bring your blanket underneath the knees. Find some length here. Feel as though the crown of the head could actually reach higher, up towards the ceiling, towards the sky. You could stay here, maybe bringing the hands to the sacrum, fingers pointing up, fingers pointing down. Maybe just a firm press of hands into sacrum as you gently open the heart space, draw the shoulders back, press the hips forward. It's a great place to stay. If you like, you could explore bringing one hand to the heel and the other hand. We have another brief pause here. Send the hips forward wherever you are. Allow the belly to breathe. And then find the yin in the yang. Where can you soften? Make your way out just the same way you came in, one hand coming up at a time. Release the arms down by the sides, and then we'll send the hips back. Come into a comfortable seat for a moment or two, a seat of your choice. I'll come into hips to heels. So we've come right into the body. And in this more neutral position, maybe you notice sensations from those last two poses shifting the energy or the experience of the body. See if you can soak all of that in, all of that experience. The subtlest of sensations making themselves known to your conscious attention. Let's shift out of our seat. And we'll find this sort of open Janu Sirsasana, or sometimes called this half dragonfly pose. We'll add a side bend instead of coming into our usual forward folds here. So now winding back a little bit the yang, but still upright. So your task is to find the yin in the yang. Connecting to that introspective or meditative quality. Maybe that's as simple as drawing your attention to the breath and to the sensation. So let's plant the left hand. I have my right leg extended. We'll start here, finding this this side bend on the right side. You might like to sit the hips up on that blanket or towel. And to make this a little bit more yin, a little bit more passive, it might feel nice to just allow the arm to drape over the head, so kind of bending at the elbow. Use your left hand as that kickstand and see if you can relax a little more. Feel into the right side of the body, from the right hip, the right side of the waist, rib cage, armpit. And release your right arm, make your way up, and we'll switch sides. So right hand plants, you can start with your usual side bend and then maybe allow again the arm to drape. Breathing in, breathing out. Make your way back through center. Pause with your neutral spine. See if you can get really quiet. So that doesn't mean necessarily trying to block out the mind or the thoughts, or to block out everything or every sound around you. It simply means to observe, to bring the fullness of your own awareness into your experience. Finding in that perhaps a sense of inner quiet, or even inner peace. Amidst perhaps a lot of other experiences, sensations, thoughts. Let's take it over to our second side. So use your hands to switch up the legs. And then right hand this time comes over to the right. And find that drape. And of course you could always keep the left arm lowered down by the side if it starts to feel like too much for you. And I like to even kind of lock out the elbow a little bit here so I can further let go of some effort, maybe walk the hand a little further away. So get curious about what your own experience is. Your body will certainly be different from mine. You can always back off the pose a little bit. Maybe you're here. Just leaning to the right. Lower the left arm if you had it draped over the head. Come back through center. Maybe starting to really feel some aliveness through the sides of the body. We'll take it over to our final side. Left hand over towards the left. Maybe the right hand draping. Soften the muscles of the face. Smooth the skin of the forehead. Release the right arm down. One more time to return to your neutral spine. Perhaps observing some after effects of the poses. A sensation of energy moving. Open the eyes if they were closed, and we'll make our way through to a tabletop. We're coming into our pigeon pose, or what we like to call swan pose, or sleeping swan in yin yoga. So this is a really nice time to grab your blanket, fold it up, and we'll start on the right side. So I like to bring it sort of off to this diagonal on the right side of my mat. You'll bring your right knee closer towards your right wrist, and then send the hips back and down any amount. And if this pose feels a bit too intense for you in the hips as you get here, know that you can always take your figure 4 pose, or your reclined swan or reclined pigeon. Or you could prop up the right hip on a couple of blankets instead of one. Feel free to stay in your more lifted swan if there's already a sense of plenty of sensation. Or you could lower to forearms, bring the head to a block or a pillow, lower the forehead to the mat. So our theme here is this curious inquiry, this conscious introspection. So get curious about your body. Choose the shape that feels like it's useful for you in this moment. Another few moments or so here. Notice if any gripping or tension has crept in, perhaps through the hips. See if you can soften that, sinking into your props. And let's make our way out. Curl the back toes under, bring the back knee a little closer in. Find your way back to tabletop. We'll take our pose to the second side, set up your blanket, towel, maybe you're on your back, switching up the legs. And left knee comes closer to the left wrist, and there's really no need to think about bringing your shin anywhere near parallel. In fact, I really like it kind of hugging in. The left heel sort of hugging in towards the right hip. And make your way into your swan or sleeping swan. Keep inviting this inquiry. Maybe noticing some subtler experiences of being in your body. Noticing the qualities of your thoughts and probably also their shifting nature. Just a few more moments here. Let's make our way out. Curl the right toes under, right knee comes forward enough so that you can make your way back to your base, your tabletop. Might feel nice just to send the hips gently side to side, kind of wagging your tail. And then we'll make our way into a seat to set up for shoelace pose. So I'll bring my blanket, since I had it nearby, underneath the hips. And then left knee down, right knee coming on top. So of course it's perfectly fine if the knees aren't anywhere in line with each other. Maybe you're here. If you get here and this is too much, the next great place to go is to extend the left leg. And if none of that is quite right, you could, of course, just come into your Sukhasana, a slightly different shape, but still equally good. And maybe you find a little forward fold there with one heel in front of the other, and then you'll be able to switch up with us when we come to our second side. So coming into this shoelace pose, what we also think of as cow face legs. It might feel nice to rest the hands on the soles of the feet. See if you can feel both of the sitting bones rooting you down into the mat. If the right sitting bone is quite lifted here, that might be a sign to come on out of the shape a little bit. No need to be hanging on for dear life or hugging in too tightly. You might allow the right knee to come a little further away from the left. Feel free to add a forward fold. Hands out in front, bowing the head, bringing the head to blocks. It can be challenging here to allow the hips to relax. But get curious. Get curious about that. See if you can allow the hips to relax a little bit, all of those muscles of the hips. And you might notice that as you unclench there, the sensation of the pose could increase a little bit, and then you might back out of the pose. I like to think of advanced yoga as sometimes doing less, but with more attention. If you folded forwards, gently make your way back up. We'll meet in a neutral spine. Unwind the legs. Bring the feet out in front of you, and let's just take a couple of really soft windshield wipers. So maybe you just come part of the way to one side, aiming instead to find the subtlety. And let's take it to our second side. So right knee will come down, right heel towards the left hip, and then the right knee on top. Of course, you could extend your right leg, maybe holding onto the left knee with the hands. Or if you had your Sukhasana, simply switch which foot was in front. Start with the hands, maybe on the feet. Feeling the grounding of the sitting bones. Maybe already getting curious about sensations, about backing off where you need, releasing tension where you can, embracing all of those yin qualities of soft and still and quiet. You might come to fold forwards. Make your way out of your forward fold if you were there. Unwind the legs. Let's come through into our final shape. You can set your blanket off to the side if you had that. And for this shape, I really love to use my bolster or my pillow. We're coming into a simple reclined twist. So with your bolster or pillow somewhere nearby, make your way down to lie on the back. And then we'll send the hips over towards the right so that the knees can fall easily over towards the left. And then I really like to bring my prop in between my knees. You might prefer to bring it underneath. You might try both. And then arms out either to cactus, bent at the elbows, or maybe a big, wide T. The gaze can be upwards towards the ceiling or head turned towards the opposite side as the knees. Once you settle in, allow the eyes to close. And know that this simple act of awareness, of curiosity, the desire to get to know yourself better, it's really all you need, all that's required to unearth or uncover deeper meaning in your life, in your present experience. Observing and getting curious can certainly be challenging. Maybe you experience that in your YIN practice, where you encounter sensation and a shape, and you want to fidget or move, but you encourage yourself to get curious. Start to guide the knees towards center. You might even take your prop along with you if it's in between. Hugging it in. And then hips to the left, so knees can fall to the right. Keep coming back to that simple act of observation. As simple as noticing the breath, the body. Start to make your way back to center, feet to the mat. And you have two options here, either to bring your pillow underneath your knees and thighs and find your way into a shavasana. Or you might join me for a moment in a seat with the pillow underneath the hips. All that you need, you already have. Let's take a final breath in through the nose. And then exhale out through the mouth. Open your eyes if they were closed, or if you're settling into your shavasana, just take a moment to draw the hands to heart center wherever you are. And say with me, the light in me bows to the light in you. Namaste.